Vishupad Paramahansa Brahmadakacharya Asadhara Siddhu Shri Shriman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande and all glories to the sound devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Vicharne Nirvishesha Shrindvadi Paskadyades. Om Jnana Dvanandasya Garanjana Salakaya Chaksur Milikam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Vinodisham Savitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shra Shri Rupam Sagradatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Vrajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakam Vitam Shra Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabando Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishambhanu Sukhadevi Pranamami Hri Priye Panchakapa Triviyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhavacha Patitanam Bhavalebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. So I'm going to read from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 7, Knowledge of the Absolute, text number 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Satyamana Parata Yoga Nyungan Manashaya Asamshayam Samagramam Itagyasasi Tachinu Shri Bhagavan Uvacha The Supreme Lord said, Mai to me, Asakta Manaha, mind attached, Parata, Osanaprita, Yogam, self-realization, Yunjan, practicing, Mahashaya, in consciousness of me, Krishna consciousness. Asamshayam, without doubt. Samagram, completely. Mam, me. Yata, how. Yes, you see, you can know. Tat, that. Shrinu, just try to hear. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So please repeat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead said,
now hear, O son of Pritha,
now hear, O son of Pritha,
how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Purport. In the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described. Krishna is full in all opulences, and how he manifests such opulence is described here within. Also, 4 kinds of fortunate people who become attached to Krishna, and 4 kinds of unfortunate people who never take to Krishna consciousness are described in this chapter. In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the living entities are described as non-material, spirit soul, capable of elevating himself to self-realization by different kinds of yoga. At the end of the 6th chapter, it's clearly explained that the steady concentration of the mind upon Krishna, or in other words, Krishna consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga. By concentrating one's mind upon Krishna, one is able to know the absolute truth completely, but not otherwise. Impersonal Brahmajyoti or localized Paramatma realization are not full knowledge of the Absolute because they're partial. Full and scientific knowledge is Krishna, and everything is revealed to the person in Krishna consciousness. Complete Krishna consciousness, one knows that Krishna is the ultimate knowledge beyond any doubts. Different types of yogas are only stepping stones on the path of Krishna consciousness. And one who takes the Krishna consciousness automatically knows about Brahma, Jyoti, and Paramatma in full. By the practice of Krishna conscious yoga, one can know everything. Namely, the absolute truth, the living entities, the material nature, and the manifestations with paraphernalia. At the end of the 6th chapter, one should therefore practice yoga as directed in the last verse of the 6th chapter. Concentration of the mind upon Krishna is made possible by 9 different types of devotional service, of which Shravanam is the first and most important. The Lord therefore says to Krishna, to Arjuna, Tashvinu, hear from me. No one can become a greater authority than Krishna, and therefore by hearing from him, one receives the greatest opportunity to become a perfectly Krishna conscious person. One is therefore to learn from Krishna directly or from a pure devotee of Krishna, and not from a non-devotee upstart puffed up with material education, academic education. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this process of understanding Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, is described in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto as follows. Shrindadam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravanam Kirtana Ridantaksto Abhajani Vidunoti Sritsatam Nashta Prayesh Vavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utmasoke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki Tadavradasnamo Bhava Kamo Lobadayastaya Etar Cheta Etarvina Vidam Stiram Satpati Tatvat Sitam Satya Prasidati Evam Prasanamanaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha Bhagavad Tattva Vijnana Mukta Sangha Sajayate Vidyate Hridaya Granthis Chidente Sarva Samashaya Shinte Jatsikaramani Dristeva Manishvare. To hear about Krishna from the Vedic literature or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita is itself righteous activity. And one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as the best wishing friend, and purifies the devotee who is constantly engaged in hearing of him. In this way, the devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the transcendental devotional service of the Lord. By the development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion, ignorance, and this material lust and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlightened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. As Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection, enables one to come at once to the state of the Samashayam, Samagram, understanding the Supreme Absolute Truth, personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. So the verse again. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Maya Saktamanat Partha Yogam Yunjanmanashaya Asamshayam Samagramam Yatagasasi Tachinu. Now hear from you, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Buddhaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Shrivadi Paskadhyate. The Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters, and as Srila Prabhupada describes, they can be divided into 3 different parts. The first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita are describing how to perform karma yoga, jnana yoga, astanga yoga, so that one can think about Krishna. The whole purpose of the Vedic literature is to focus one's attention and then give one's love to Krishna. So that art is described in the first 6 chapters in one way, and then here in the 7th chapter, the middle 6 chapters, which deal with Bhakti Yoga, is described in a different way, the same process of fixing the mind upon Krishna by hearing about him. And the last 6 chapters are considered Jnana Yoga, the knowledge that's necessary to stay fixed in Krishna consciousness, to see things in such a way as that one doesn't forget Krishna. Now in the 7th chapter, Krishna begins with Tachinu, to hear from me. And as I described yesterday, hearing is only the beginning, because hearing means that we're trying to hear. Trying to hear means that we're trying to we're hearing from something about Krishna, something about devotional service, and we have yet to apply it necessarily in our practical lives. Because according to Bhagavad Gita, we're already engaged in activities because the very body that we acquired, that we're in, is destined to perform certain activities. That Sattvam Rajas Samayiti Guna Prakriti Sambhava Ivanandi Mahabaho Dehe Dehinam Avyam. The material body consists of 3 modes: goodness, passion, ignorance. When living entity comes in contact with these modes, he becomes conditioned by them. So we're in a body, and the body is a machine, and the machine is meant to fulfill desires. But at the same time, This machine that we're in has two aspects, avaratmika shakti, prakatmika shakti. One is it covers our consciousness, so we're in a world of illusion. Namely, we believe that we're this body, and that somehow or another I'm having some pastime in the material world where I'm the center of attention. As I think I said last time, we wake up in the morning and we look in the mirror, and we ask the mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest of them all? And of course, the mirror is always answering the same to all of us, that we're observing in the mirror the Supreme. And therefore we should surrender and render unalloyed, uninterrupted service to that deity we see in the mirror. Unfortunately, the deity in the mirror, although we may render service to it, it's never satisfied with our service. There's no end to the service it demands, and we're never embarrassed by whatever we do to serve our deity. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita is meant to awaken Utsridatam Yatapatam Lava Buddhis, real knowledge, real intelligence, so that we can make a proper decision. The whole idea of hearing is to discover who we actually are and what our best interest is. Out of the 5 things that are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, the 5 topics, namely Ishvara, the Supreme, no matter what we hear, we're not going to change the Supreme. Krishna is always God. It doesn't matter whether we hear about him or not. He wasn't elected to be God. And therefore, if we don't hear about him, he'll lose his popularity and he'll get outvoted in the next God election. Now, Krishna is, whether we know about him or not, he's controlling everything here. There's no question whether he's going to be God now or in the future by popular vote. He doesn't become discouraged if no one likes him. No, he's Ishvara, eternally. And then there is Jiva, ourself. We never make progress to becoming God. It's not that if I practice real hard devotional service, one day I'll get a little closer to becoming God. No, nothing changes. Whether we become the wealthiest person or the poorest person, the healthiest person or the most disturbed person, we never change. We're always exactly the same. Nothing in the material world has changed us at all, except that we're asleep. And the aim is to wake the jiva up. But how to wake the jiva up? That's called karma. That's the one thing that changes. Prakriti, the material nature, doesn't change. Or does kala, time, which is changing everything. But karma, what we do, what we desire to do, changes our consciousness. Either it brings it up or it brings it down. If we act in ignorance and passion, well, if we're acting in ignorance when we're in passion, it goes down. And if we're acting in ignorance when we're ignorant, then we go even lower down. And if we act in passion when we're in ignorance, then it goes a little up. And if we act in goodness when we're in passion, then it goes up. And if we act in Krishna consciousness, it goes all the way up. So that's our choice, what kind of activity we want to perform. Bhagavad Gita is to encourage us to perform devotional service so we become conscious of Krishna and therefore raise our experience. It is not meant to teach us how to become healthy, wealthy, or wise. Because it doesn't really matter what we achieve materially in this world. At the end of this living, when we leave this body, where our consciousness is depends where we're going next. It is not that I did a lot of exercise in this lifetime, and therefore in my next lifetime, I'll be strong and healthy. Maybe. But then there'll be another lifetime. When we're in the womb of our mother, we can't do any exercise. Nor can we take any of our wealth with us. We may think, well, I died wealthy, and they put me in a nice samadhi, so I can sleep peacefully for some time, and then I'll wake up, go to the bank and collect my money again. It's not the way things work. We may wake up, and we're a rabbit. The only lucky thing we have is a rabbit's foot. As we all know, rabbit's foots are not very lucky for the rabbit. Therefore, one has to consider, what is our activity? What are we doing? The whole question is, what am I doing and why am I doing it? What is my business? That's what we have to find out. What is my real business and how's business? We don't have to do a whole lot of things. We don't have to ask a whole lot of questions. Just what am I supposed to be doing and how am I doing it? Then the result should be, then we're remembering Krishna, that's all. That if I actually believe that I'm a spiritual being, and after all, if I'm not a spiritual being, then what am I? As Srila Prabhupada used to say, when the person's there in the body, they say it's alive. But when the soul leaves the body, it's the same body there. You can't say that it's a different body. He left the body, therefore it's a different body. No, it's the same body's there, but the soul's not there. Therefore we say it's dead. But actually the body is always dead. Therefore it can't die. We don't have to worry about our bodies dying because they're already dead. And something that's dead can't die. So death simply means the soul leaves the body. But the soul doesn't die because the soul was never dead, nor can it be dead. It was never born, and therefore it can't die. And the body was never alive, therefore it also can't die. Just like a puppet. If you're playing with the puppet and moving the puppet, it appears to be alive, but actually the puppet is dead. And if you take your hand out of the puppet, it's not that the puppet died. The puppet fell on the ground, everyone's crying, the puppet's dead. Everyone's trying to revive the puppet. It just won't get back to life again. And so they put it in a nice box and take it to puppet grave. They bury the puppet and everyone cries. It was such a nice puppet. Now it's dead. But it was never alive, so how could it die? So the material world means a misconception. Due to our identification with this body, gross and subtle, we think we're going to die. But actually nothing is going to change. Even when we leave this body, we just get another body, that's all. But we ourselves are the same person. So therefore, such knowledge is given in the Bhagavad Gita. The difference between ourselves and the body, and ultimately who's controlling everything. Who we have to satisfy, who's going to give us different states of consciousness, and ultimately how to come to the state of consciousness where we realize we're eternal. Now becoming rich, wealthy, strong, powerful, whatever. That doesn't give us any closer to a realization of our eternal self. Only when we realize our eternal self can we become happy, can we become peaceful. Because if we don't know who we are, we don't know we're eternal, then how can we possibly be peaceful? Just like I gave the example, if we gave everyone here a free ticket to fly to Mayapur for Gaur Pranim, how many of our devotees here would take a free ticket to fly to India for Gaur Pranim? So Divyam is actually quite wealthy, although he pretends to be a humble Brahmin. So after class, you can ask him for the free ticket, if you can find him.
Maybe I have to go already now.
So just imagine we're on air, Hare Krishna, we're flying over to go to Mayapur, and the pilot makes an announcement, Hare Krishna. What else would the pilot say? Welcome to Air Hare Krishna. We hope you enjoy the flight. It's supposed to be an 9-hour flight, and we're going to have a very nice prasadam feast with gulabjamins, samosas, ice cream, and pizza. And we'll have a nice film about the Hare Krishnas on Gorpurnim eating prasadam. So we hope you enjoy the rest of the flight. There's only one other announcement. Unfortunately, whoever was supposed to pay for the fuel only put in half as much as we need. And therefore, my co-pilot tells us we're going to crash in the ocean in half an hour. But don't worry, that we have excellent servers on board, and they tell us they're going to be able to serve out the whole feast before we crash into the ocean. So, and also, you're only going to be able to see half the movie. But don't worry, because we've been told that if you pray to Krishna very sincerely, he'll let you come back and see the other half. So we hope you enjoy the rest of the flight. The co-pilot and myself, we're bailing out now. Please, chant Hare Krishna, be happy. No, who can actually enjoy a flight when you know you're going to crash in half an hour? And how good the prasadam is. So similarly, we're in this body, and sooner or later the body crashes. And still we're trying to have a good time in the meantime. But that's not really possible. Therefore, nashti buddhiya yuktasya, nacha yuktasya bhavanaha, nacha bhavi takshantir, ashantasya kutaksugam. Therefore, one who's not in divine consciousness or Krishna consciousness can have neither a controlled mind nor steady intelligence, without which there's no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So our first business is to become peaceful. And we can't become peaceful unless we experience our nature as being eternal. So our first business is to try to act in such a way as to realize Krishna, because only as we gradually experience Krishna, then gradually we wake up to our real nature, our real identity, where we realize we're eternal. Now someone seems to be having some material advantages or disadvantages, but they have nothing to do with the fact that we're eternal. Now if we're striving, as Queen Kunti said, to make material advancement, that's the worst thing that could possibly happen to us. In the sense that it is true that due to the fact that we're in this body and we're in love with it, we're infatuated by it. Everything about the body we're in love with. Even everyone else doesn't like the way the aroma that our body has. For us, it's like nectar. And yet, we're suffering because we're in the body. Now, Queen Kunti says, Janmaishwarya Shruta Shivir Edamanak Madak Puman Naivahat Devadatumvat from Akinchana Gochra. That anyone who's interested in advancing their material life, their wealth, their material education, their personal influence and beauty, their material position in this world, then they're intoxicated. In other words, we're already intoxicated by identification with this body, and we've forgotten who we are. But then when we become interested in advancing and getting more in this material world, then we become mada, we become crazy. And the problem with the crazy person who's infatuated with material opulences is he can't chant Hare Krishna with feeling. And if we can't chant Hare Krishna with feeling, then we remain in the bodily concept of life. Or as it says in the Bhagavad, if a king has a heavy crown on his head, if he doesn't bow it down before the personality of Godhead, the heavy crown simply sinks him deeper into the ocean of material existence. Therefore, Queen Kunti prays for problems, because her sons were always in difficulty. Vishan Mahagne Purushara Darshana Asada Sabaya Vanavana Krichita Vide Vide Nekam Haratasraso Pragastama Sma. That the Pandavas were always in difficulty, although they were princes, they were the sons of demigods, still their whole life was full of problems. Bhima was fed poison, and after he fell asleep after eating the poison cake, he had a birthday cake made out of poison. His cousin brothers, headed by Duryodhana, gave him, because they had some disagreements, Bhima was a little frivolous dealing with his cousin brothers. Sometimes 100 of them would climb into a tree, and Bhima would shake the tree and they'd fall down and break their arms. So somehow or another, they didn't appreciate Bhima. So they decided that on his birthday, we'd offer him a nice cake made out of Kalakuta poison, most deadly poison, and they were wishing him a happy birthday. Actually, they were wishing that it was his last birthday. And Bhima was offering to share the cake, but they said, no, it's your birthday, and you look hungry, so we'll get your remnants. So he ate the cake, and he said, I feel a little tired. He said that his cousin brother said, it's natural. Feel a little tired after you eat. Take a little rest. So he fell unconscious. They picked him up and threw him into a lake of poisonous snakes. So luckily, the poison of the snakes counteracted the Kalakuta poison, and Bhima woke up, killed the snakes, and was taken to the kingdom of Varuna, where Varuna gave him elixirs, which made him even stronger. In any case, that wasn't the end of their problems. They were put into a house made out of black or shellac, set on fire. They escaped into the forest, and they were greeted by a man-eating Rakshasa who welcomed them to dinner. Unfortunately, they were on the menu. But Bhima killed Hindimba and married Hindimbi, his sister, the Rakshasa. Then there was, of course, Draupadi was going to be disrobed. There was a war, the Battle of Kurukshetra. Ashwatthama threw brahmastras at them, trying to kill them. So it was a life full of problems. If we think we have problems, just read the Bhagavatam. Even the great devotees, they have more problems than we can think of. But still, Queen Kunti was praying, my dear Lord, please send me more problems. Because when there's problems, and naturally, because we're your devotees, we turn to you for shelter, and therefore we think about you naturally. So Queen Kunti had to pray for problems in order to think about Krishna. But we're much more fortunate in Kali Yuga because we don't
which are actually against our real interest. So Krishna will explain very simply in the end of the 7th chapter, all we do is have to think about Krishna. And that's possible if we hear from him with attention. The problem is that when we're hearing about Krishna, we're also thinking so many different ways of trying to get something in the material world. And we're afraid of losing things in the material world. So we can't really pay much attention because we're doing so much planning all the time to get what we don't have and protect what we think we have. So we have no time to hear about Krishna. We're so much concerned. We even heard rumors that we might even die because no one believes that. Just like Srila Prabhupada was in London one time, and the reporters asked Srila Prabhupada, he said, Swamiji, why are so many people dying in India? So Srila Prabhupada was quite surprised by the question and said, well, yeah, a lot of people die in India. But I've seen recent statistics that in London, also people are dying. As a matter of fact, as many people, as much percentage of the population in India die as in London. It's all the same, 100%. Whether you die in London or you die in India, you're dead. And everyone dies. So that's what we're worried about. We're worried that we're in one of the most advanced countries in the world, but we hear that even here sometimes people die because we don't believe it, or we think we may be something special, because after all, we're devotees, we get special compensation. When the Amadutas come, we just show them our neck beads, and they say, oh, sorry. We made a mistake. So that's our real problem. That's what we're afraid of, but we don't die. We only think we're going to die. So we realize we're eternal, and we have no more problems. Material problems. Of course, that's the beginning. The next thing is to realize who we actually are. It's one thing to know who we're not. The other thing is to realize who we are. But if we hear from Krishna and we gradually accept enough, so we start surrendering to Krishna, we start acting progressively more and more, utilizing our energies in Krishna's service, Krishna's mission, then gradually Krishna will reveal himself to us. And we become his instrument. And as we become the instrument of Krishna, since he knows everything we do will be perfect, at least perfect in Krishna consciousness. And if we don't do that, then we have to follow the ways of life and the material nature, and we don't know what's going to happen to us. We'll always be in anxiety what our future is. Although we know our future already. Just like sometimes I learn palmistry, and I can tell you exactly what's going to happen to you in the future. Does everyone know palmistry here?
I know a little.
Yeah, so if you look at everyone has a hand, or you can look at your right hand. And then between the thumb and the index finger, there's a line here, and hopefully it goes down a little bit. If it doesn't, you can see me after class. We'll call the ambulance. So this line goes down, 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 down. And you see at the end there? What happens at the end? What's that? What happens at the very bottom of the line? Yeah, that's your future. That's where it all ends. But we'll get another hand, either a spiritual one or a material one. And you can look at the next lines you get. But if we become Krishna conscious, then gradually, if we utilize our energies in Krishna service, which Srila Prabhupada once wrote to me, he said, the more you work seriously and help bring Krishna's other children back to the spiritual kingdom, the more he'll bestow all his blessings upon you. That Krishna is never ungrateful for our efforts to serve him, rest assured. So Krishna has a mission. It's not that he came to this planet 5,000 years ago because he got off on the wrong stop. You know, to wind up in Vrindavan, wander around for a few years, and then got back on the plane, went back to Goloka. So Krishna comes, he has a mission, he has a purpose, whether it's Lord Krishna or Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Srila Prabhupada, they have a mission to help the conditioned soul get out of the material illusory conceptions of life. And if we help Krishna in that mission, then he'll also remove our material illusory conceptions of life and revive our actual identities as spiritual beings, as servants of Krishna. So the more we become serious about becoming Krishna's servant, then the more we'll realize by Krishna's mercy that we're his eternal servants. And then all our problems will end. So that's what Krishna will explain in the 7th chapter. If we hear with attention, then gradually our doubts about this will go away as we get more and more experience. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you for the lecture, Maharaj. I have a question. During preaching, very often the question arises, what is consciousness? Would you elaborate on this? How to present it convincingly to people? Is it the same as the soul? Is it an attribute of the soul? How we approach the matter? We of course know it's a symptom of the soul, as Prabhupada says, but you could kindly elaborate.
Well, if you want to know what conscious is, just pinch your finger. Pinch it real hard. And what do you feel? There's consciousness there. You're aware of it. So consciousness is compared in Bhagavad Gita to the sun and the sunlight. The sun is like our cells. The sunlight is our consciousness. Yatha prakashyat ekam krishnam lokimam ravi kshetram kshetri tata krishnam prakashyati bharata. Just like the sun alone illuminates all this universe with sunlight, so the soul situated in the body illuminates the entire body by consciousness. So consciousness is the energy of the soul, which allows the soul to experience. So it's emanating from the soul, just like the sunlight is emanating from the sun. That's where we can, although we're not the finger, but we can feel this. We pinch. So that's what it is. Just like you can ask, oh, what is sunlight? Well, sunlight is coming from the sun. Well, if someone says, I don't believe in sunlight, then what can we say?
What will you say to argument? Because there always comes this argument. And, because we can see that through different kinds of chemicals, medicines, we can affect consciousness. So
affect the consciousness.
It has nothing to do with the soul. It's just some kind of matter which can be manipulated by chemicals.
No, it's not manipulated by chemicals. The body is so gross and subtle is manipulated by the chemicals. The soul is experiencing. Now, the consciousness of the soul may be limited by the body it's experiencing, but still it's there. It doesn't really change because you may put anesthesia in the body and the soul stops experiencing the body temporarily. But when the anesthesia wears off, the soul experiences the body again equally. So the soul's ability to experience may be limited by the state of the body, but the soul and the consciousness really doesn't change. It may just be what it's experiencing may be altered. Just like at night we go to sleep, it doesn't mean that the soul is unconscious. It just means it's conscious in a different way than it was before.
In what way?
Well, maybe dreaming that you're a bird, and then we wake up, we think we're this body. But we're not a bird, and we're not this body. So our material existence does influence what we're experiencing, but it doesn't influence the soul. Just like you may have sunlight, you may cover it with a cloud, but it doesn't mean that the sun is blocked. It means that with sunlight, it doesn't go through the cloud, that's all. The sun, the cloud doesn't block, it doesn't really interfere with the sun or the light. It just means that the light can't get through the cloud. So the soul is always there. It may be more or less conscious in the material world according to the state of the body that's in, but it doesn't mean that it's not conscious. If we become Krishna conscious, then we experience the unlimited consciousness of Krishna. Therefore, there's no blockage to the consciousness of the soul. There's like a little spark. When the spark is in the fire, it glows. But if you drop it on the earth or into water, then it gets extinguished. It doesn't glow as much. According to what we're associating with, what we're conscious of, either the consciousness becomes enlivened, just like when you put the spark, fire, due to association with the fire, it glows even more. But outside the fire, it diminishes its glow, that's all. Anything else? Yes.
I think consciousness is to be here in this moment of time and to be aware that you are here in this moment of time. That is consciousness.
But in that time is always changing, but this consciousness is not changing. Here and now we're always here and now, but what we're here and now in is always different.
We are to the end here and now in this moment of time, unless we are sleeping and dreaming.
Well, even you're dreaming, you're conscious. You're conscious of the dream.
Yeah, but you are in a dream and it's like a playing movie. It's not.
This is also a movie. This is our daydream. We wake up and we'll realize who we actually are. Now we're dreaming over this body. Just like we're dreaming we had some other body in sleep. When we wake up, we'll find out who we actually are. Yes?
Thank you. I was wondering about the material energy, how it is. They say it comes from Krishna also, so is there any intelligence in that material energy, and is it wise or doing something good in a way?
Well, the material nature is Krishna's energy, so Krishna is pervading it. He can do anything he wants with it. So he's aware of it. But this is just like a nail on the finger. It's produced from the body, but it's not conscious. You can cut your nail off, you don't go screaming. And you cut your hand off, it's a problem. If you cut the nail off, it's not a big problem. So the material nature is Krishna, is a transformation of Krishna's effulgence, Brahman, through Krishna's desire, through his energies, Parashara Shakti, Vividaya Vishvavite, he can transform his effulgence into the material nature. Therefore, it's not different from Krishna, but it's not conscious.
So
Although Krishna is conscious.
Intelligent.
What's that?
So it isn't not.
No, it's directly by intelligence. It's not intelligent.
Yes.
Just like you have an axe. The axe doesn't cut the tree down. You need a person to use the axe to cut it down. You need an intelligent person to use the axe. So the material nature by itself can't do anything. It's only when it's directed with intelligence that it can work. Yes?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, thank you very much for the lecture. And you mentioned at the beginning we should chant more with feeling. How can we achieve that?
Well, I guess as we do our service to Krishna, as we hear and then apply it within our lives, as Krishna sees we're sincerely trying to understand him, then he gradually reveals himself. And when we experience Krishna, because Krishna is the pure devotees are full of emotion, then naturally when we experience their emotion, that invokes our own emotions, our inherent emotions become invoked by experiencing their emotions. Independently, without Krishna consciousness, it's not possible. It's only when we experience transcendental emotions from those who have it can we experience our own transcendental emotions. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Regarding this consciousness, the topic, does the consciousness also depend on the mode the person is in? So if somebody is in a sattva gun, then is higher conscious and other way around?
Yeah, well, sattva simply means less covering of mutual nature. Still, there may be some passion, ignorance, but it's less. Just like in the sky, the sun is there, and there's clouds covering it, which are the modes. But the less clouds that are covering it, the more the sun shines through. The more we can see things as they really are, the light of the sun. So sattva means less covering, therefore more perception of the sun and its light.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And one more question regarding this material energy. So I have read about this 3 types of Krishna's energy: internal, external, and marginal energy. How to understand that in simple terms?
Well, Krishna is the source of all energy, and he has the energy called jivas. That's where the jiva, minute expansions of Krishna. And then there's material nature, is one of the products of his effulgence, and it's transformation of his effulgence. Therefore, it's not conscious, but the jiva soul is conscious. But when he enters into the material nature and is conditioned by it, he becomes less conscious, becomes unaware of his real identity. But Krishna is never affected by the material nature, just like the sun is never affected by the cloud it may create by creating clouds from the ocean. The sun doesn't become covered by it. But the person underneath the cloud, he becomes covered by it. Thank you very much. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Lord Premanand